You know, people say you can't wash away the mud of this world with pure white snow. You need Asura snow, stained fiery red.
Oh boy.
Welcome to the last episode of Archers of Horror. That's right, the final episode.
Holy shit. This is how it ends.
This is how it ends. I am Ed Darty, joined by Rusty Stark, and this truly is the final episode because from now on, this podcast is called Viewmasters.
New logo and everything.
A new logo, and we're going to have a show about sitcoms that's going to be running on the weeks when this show is not on, and other shows along the way. And the main thing is that originally we were going to watch every horror release from Arrow Video, but it turns out there's only so many that you want to watch.
That seems so
many
ancient
other
now.
Things we want to do. Yeah, it does seem so ancient now. I think we've evolved past it, and we're excited to do more stuff too. And our sitcom show will premiere next week, actually, is when that first episode about Small Wonder is coming out.
I'm so over the Arrow films that I actually made a bonfire with all my Blu-rays of them.
Well, we have a lot of listeners in the UK who could be, we've always speculated if they're Arrow employees or not. To them, I'll say I'll be building a bigger bonfire.
Oh, well, I am happy that we won't be saying Archers of Horror anymore. So
that's one of the main things. If you're someone living on the border having a speech impediment like both me and Rusty, you're not going to want to say Archers of Horror as much as we said over the past 2 years. And it is kind of a little scary because we've gotten more listeners just like in the last couple of months, been going upward. So we're hoping that we are not completely shooting ourselves in the foot here.
Tell us if you like the title.
Don't tell us shit because we're not changing it again. And I already know there's some people who were anti a name change. They'll get used to it. That's fine.
Yes.
Rusty, a bit of an update for longtime listeners on an issue that came up in a past show.
This is news to me.
Yeah, so I asked you a couple episodes ago. I don't remember which episode it was. I asked you if you ever would want to find a dead body, and you said no, and I said I wasn't sure. Well, guess what? I found a dead body.
Human or animal?
Human.
Is that true? I need details because I don't know if I could believe you on this.
It was this weekend. I was depressed. I was watching Deep Space Nine. I must have watched 8 episodes in a row.
Life is yours for the taking. All you have to do is reach out and grab it. But do you? No.
Then I told myself, I said, you got to go for a walk. So walking down my street and I see there's these like kind of private security guys, and I don't really know what their deal is. And I see one of them approaching a homeless person. And then I look at the homeless guy and I'm like, that guy looks dead. And then I got closer and I'm like, that guy is dead. Like his eyes were open, a dead person. And the security guard guy like lifted his hand and like, the hand dropped, and then he looked at me and I was like, that's a dead guy. And
they're like, thanks Einstein over there.
then I just lingered in the area and he called someone and he's like, no, he's dead. He's dead. And, the ambulance came, took the guy away.
Now, did that lift your spirits? Did it cure your depression? Did it give you a new lease on life?
Not at first. And then when I was coming back at that very same spot, like I was like, what's going to be, is there going to be like crime scene tape? Is there going to be like a CSI guy studying? And there was a woman with her daughter trying to unlock like a bird scooter with like her phone, and like clearly struggling, like, honey, I can't figure it out. And then like the daughter being like, come on, Mom, you just hit that thing. And I was just like, man, life is so cheap. Life is so cheap out there.
I had very low expectations because I was just like, oh God, one of Eddie D's picks. The movie opened with that prison scene. And just that baby wailing, it was so irritating. I'm just like, oh God, I'm going to hate this movie. But I actually really, really liked it. It was slow, but not slow. It was so fascinating.
Yeah. What a journey. It's like, yes, that baby wailing is a bit much in the beginning, but then when you float out that window and the snow becomes blood and Lady Snowblood comes on the screen, come on.
And I love the characters. And they're it's quite a motley crew of characters in this movie.
It really is. You could consider this a comic book movie because it's based on a manga.
Yeah, it feels like it.
And like there's a lot of characters who in other movies could have been like a throwaway, but will have like an interesting element to them.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to say the obvious, but you could definitely see that inspired Quentin Tarantino, especially with Kill Bill.
That's probably the thing that this movie is most famous for. Yeah.
What else do you have to say on that?
I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say about that. The original title for this in Japan is a little different than Lady Snowblood. I don't know if you read this.
No.
The original Japanese title is actually The Office. No, the original Japanese title is Carnage Snow Princess, basically, but it's a play on Snow White because the word for Snow White and Carnage Snow Princess are like basically the same word or something. But whatever it is, like the title of this movie is a play on Snow White, which I think is interesting in some way.
Yeah.
Also, think about this. In Kill Bill, she goes into like a coma, just like Snow White goes into a coma. Do you know how to say this guy's name?
No, we're going to do a lot of butchering of Japanese names on this episode.
Yeah, we are. We have to preemptively apologize for that. This one I even looked up, but I just Kazuo Kouki. Casio. All right, you got to try to say it.
I don't even know. I didn't even look up this person's name. I did very little research outside of watching the film. So I'm going to say you did a good job.
Okay, great. I can't believe I'm leaving this in. Well, he also did Samurai Executioner, which I remember used to be your nickname in high school. Rusty, you're going to love this. He started out his career working on Golgo 13.
Really? That's interesting.
Rusty, he just died less than 1 month ago today due to pneumonia at age 82.
It's too young.
Now, you're not going to believe this next part. You're not going to believe this next part. He died just 5 days after the death of his rival, a manga author named Monkey Punch, who also died of pneumonia.
There's a conspiracy. You know what the biggest travesty in all this is that he'll never get to hear our podcast on this episode.
That's true. That's true. I have I have one more thing I have to tell you.
Okay, tell me.
I don't know how interesting this is, but I think it's kind of funny. So the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, which they're based on mangas by the same author, they feel very similar, and I recommend all of them. They get a little old by the end, but the second and third movies are amazing. But so 6 movies were made over the course of just 2 years, and so the kid who plays the baby is always the same actor. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this guy has been up to. And I looked it up, and he was arrested for gun smuggling. But now you're probably thinking that sounds really romantic, but he was actually just smuggling one gun from Thailand for a woman who wanted to kill herself. And he was like, okay, I'll get the gun for you. So he went to get her a gun so she could kill herself, but then he got caught. But so the funny part of this.
So you're saying what he was doing was a heroic act?
Who knows? I mean, probably not a heroic act, because I'm sure the woman could find mental health resources, and we should not have a permanent problem to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
It's just funny to me, like, so the woman ended up not killing herself, but when she tells a story to friends, she must be like, and you won't believe the guy who was getting me the gun. It was the kid from Lone Wolf and Cub. And they're like, really? That's what he's been doing?
That's what I'm trying to ponder. Like, how did he get involved in that? Was that like her Make-A-Wish? Was that her Make-A-Wish?
Her Make-A-Wish. That's funny. It was, like if everybody's having a conversation with like a bunch of friends, and they're like, what happened to the little kid from Lone Wolf and Cub? And she'd be like, well, It's incredible you bring it up when I'm here because I know. And I feel a little bad.
Is this movie like very popular, especially in like the States?
I think so.
Okay, so people do know this movie. It's not just people like me.
Well, why don't we give an overview of this movie then before we even go on?
Okay.
This is a movie about a girl who gets revenge.
That was riveting. It's her mother. She's avenging her mother.
This desire for vengeance has been like passed down almost supernaturally, basically, from the mother to the daughter.
And I really love the characters. I love the bad characters too. They're like bosses in a video game.
Oh, they completely are. And this movie was made in 1973. It feels so much more modern than that.
There's just like one scene. There's one scene that gives it away. It's with the cops that are for what's her name, Okuna Kitahama. Mm-hmm. And they're coming down the street and they're playing like that 70s like boogie music. And it's just like, wow, this is very 70s in that one scene. But other than that, now you embrace the Japanese culture. Now I heard you turned off the subtitles.
Yeah, that's not true. The star of the film, Meiko Kaji.
Did you like her performance in this movie?
Oh, she's fucking amazing.
She is amazing.
She's like, oh my god, the rock center of this movie.
Usually,
in fact, it's
okay.
It's like the Simpsons thing with Poochie. It's like when Poochie's not on screen, everyone should be talking about him. Whenever Lady Snowblood's not on screen, you're like, where is Lady Snowblood?
She really packs a punch. Like,
yes, she does.
Like when she has such screen presence.
Meiko Kaji is also famous for two other series of films. Mm-hmm. One, Female Prisoner Scorpion, and the other one is Stray Cat Rock. But the studio that made Stray Cat Rock, I believe it's called, Nakatsu, moved into the pink film business, which is a whole genre of Japanese porn films. But they're kind of like softcore porn. But the crazy thing is, when I was reading about these pink films, I was like, oh, wow, this sounds just like Samurai Dreams from Videodrome.
I don't know. It's soft. Something too soft about it. I'm looking for something that'll break through, you know, something tough.
When Dario Argento saw the film, he called the director and he said, you got to hook me up with your red guy.
I don't.
It's like they all had to get colors from different people. I don't know.
Yeah, I have for early 70s. That blood did look cool though. A lot of blood in 70s movies looks a little weird.
It's definitely stylized blood. It's like a Dawn of the Dead blood.
It looks better than Dawn of the Dead blood though.
Yeah, it does. And gotta love those sprays.
Yeah,
I might just install a bunch of dummies around my house, and I could just have sprays hooked up, and as I walk by, I'll just slash them with a sword and have sprays going off.
That when she pulls that sword out of that umbrella, you know there's going to be a lot of blood.
Oh yeah, that and that first scene is so great.
Well, not the first scene, the scene where we first see her, right?
The first scene where we first see her, her first like kill, basically.
I love that scene.
That is all-time classic.
It's so vivid and vibrant, even though it's mostly white. But just her purple umbrella, and then the blood, obviously. It's just done. It's just a masterpiece.
Yeah. Here is a comparison you're going to hear nowhere else, and a comparison that only Rusty will get. So it's perfect for this podcast. But do you know what this scene reminded me of in a weird way?
What's that?
The PlayStation game Knockout Kings.
I don't get the analogy.
Do you know why?
No, I don't know why.
Because the game Knockout Kings, the boxing ring was in like this black void.
Oh, that's true.
This scene, it's like outside like a temple or something. It's just like a wall, and it's snowing, and then around it is like a black void, and it's just like a blacked off set, but it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of technical stuff we never talk about on this show, but whatever the film stock of this is fucking great.
Yeah.
Like all the colors are so vibrant and like unique looking.
But that first scene, it's so dreamlike too. Like it seems real, but it also doesn't. It seems like if you were dreaming.
Yeah.
Like it's not quite finished.
Yeah.
And like
exactly.
you said, that black void, it just like, is this really happening? And then
I think I didn't even, the first time I saw this, I don't know that I got this motivation of hers, because it almost feels like it's like this is not part of her overall revenge. She's killing him to endear herself to a guy that she thinks will have information about where the people that she wants to kill are.
But doesn't it lead her? It leads her to the next scene though, to where she meets Mr. Matsuman's gang.
Yeah.
But what's his connection? I think I either didn't write it down or I forgot.
The guy that she goes to runs like the beggars gang. Like all the panhandlers all belong to this gang. And the guy she killed was like oppressing that gang.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
She's like, she did
That's
that
right.
as like a preemptive gesture.
Yeah, that's why it carried favor for her. That's why he helped her.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. You know what I was wondering though? And I always bring this up, the why now. What was she doing previous to this? Was she just roaming Japan looking for these perpetrators, or was she still training?
I think it's probably a little both. I feel like her training just recently completed.
Because we pick up the story at this moment. This is our introduction to Lady Snowblood, but I'm sure she had to have killed others before this moment.
Yeah. She had to get a few under your belt. Jesus, you know?
It's just like, I wonder what her daily, like day-to-day life is.
Dude, I know it. I am an Asura demon as well. I know what her life is like. I relate more to Lady Snowblood than I relate to the characters like in the Mutilator going out for like a weekend with their friends. I want to relate to Lady Snowblood, but in truth, really, the only thing I have in common with her is that little kind of geisha walk she does when she's on the beach. That's how I walk around my apartment because I'm afraid of my downstairs neighbors complaining about me. So I just slide around without raising my feet.
But I loved her whole look.
Oh yeah, her look is great. I mean, we've kind of already said it, but the look of the film is amazing, and like they really. How do I say this? They really integrate her outfits with her environment so well. Like clearly thought was put into every aspect of that.
So anyways, you said being born in Asura. Tell us what that is.
In this context, I think an Asura demon is like in the film. I'm not sure what it is in general in Buddhism. It's like a being that is dedicated to just one thing. And in this case, it is getting revenge for her mother. So she's forsaken all human emotions. I know what that's like. And she's forsaken everything else in life. And
but how do we know? Like, how does she know that she is that? Like,
well, because the mom's friend is the one who like kind of leads her through this stuff. Although that's a little.
But you're born that way, or you can become that way.
Well, it's a little of both, because when we see her training montage, clearly she has a way to go. Mm-hmm. But also, I mean, I think from the movie, it's definitely supernatural.
Yeah.
There's like something supernatural to this whole Asura process.
After she cuts down this guy Genzo, she makes her way into this impoverished community, this village, which basically looks like Mos Eisley. That is quite the wretched hive of scum
and villainy.
And the fact that they have a little plan for her when she's asking for the leader.
They've got bad plans for Lady Snowblood, but
the one thing that I have to say, the one critique I have about the scene is that the martial arts wasn't that great. It's the one time the martial arts wasn't performed at a high caliber.
I agree completely. It's a bit like Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid. Like, I don't want to see that much of that because I just thought like she didn't look too tough in that moment.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, she's wearing a kimono, and it's pretty tight, so she can't do that like wheelhouse kick that she does that knocks everyone over. Mm-hmm. But she attempts it, and it looked like something that I've seen you attempt in your kitchen many years ago.
Oh my god!
But Mr. Matsuman comes out, and like he said, like, don't you know who she is? And she has to sit down with him. And I don't know, what am I trying to say here?
So then she sits down with their leader, and This is our portal into like the craziest section of the movie.
Oh, I love this section though.
Me too. She starts explaining basically her origin, why she's getting revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how to describe where the movie goes from here, except to say that I was trying to chart it's like a flashback of a flashback, and then like a different narrator takes over, and then it's her mother's story, and it's all over the place, but in a very satisfying way.
Yeah. Well, basically she lays out 4 people that she's looking for, that she's looking to get revenge on. And she names them, and we find out one of them's already dead, Tokushi Shokai. But then she goes on to mention the blood tax riots of 1873, which is where people were exploited for money. And then there's this whole draft dodging scam. So we get a glimpse of that. And then she goes into like the history of that a little bit, and then some Japanese history.
Also, the killers, it makes them even more scummy because not only were they exploiting the people, they falsely identify Lady Snowblood's parents as being these people who are oppressing them. You know what I mean?
Right. They're called the people in white.
And the guy's like, I'm just the new elementary school teacher. And every time I see this, I really hope that he just explains a little better, a little more. And he's like, there's somebody who knows me. Can you get that guy? But he takes, before we get to that. Yeah.
Wait, so he's Lady Snowblood's mother's husband, but not her, father.
Not her father. He would have loved to have been, but that was not how things worked out.
I like that guy's look. He had that cool little pencil mustache.
Mm-hmm.
But the best part of the scene is the way that he is mistaken, and the way these 4 people come out of this hillside area. And that's where we're introduced to the 4 villains of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you love the way it was like, I don't want to say Scott Pilgrim, but something like that, where you're seeing like who you have to battle.
Oh yeah. No, it's such a great scene. It's like, as they all run up and stab, Lady Snowblood's mother's husband.
Yeah.
There's like a freeze frame, and it has like their name.
Oh, I love that look though. Yeah, I love their looks though, cool. Even though they're such horrible characters. But I like that.
They have like a Nintendo, like an 80s Nintendo quality, especially the woman. She looks like an 8-bit in some way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's the way she's like laughing. And they come out in the order of their importance too. So the first one is the Tokushi Shokai, and then you get Banzo Takamura and Gishiro Tsukamoto. And I liked, like I was saying, how I love their look, but that hat that Banzo was wearing, and with that blue kimono, that might be my look in a couple years.
I love the expression that's on his face when he stabs him. It's kind of hard to. It's like simultaneously, it seems like he's like almost orgasmic, but also it seems like he's regretting it. Like, what's up with this? Maybe he's just drunk, because his character later is a drunk.
Yeah, I feel like I would like him to be my father.
You can count on me, no matter where you go.
And then they deliver the final blow, but as he's bleeding out, he utters such a funny line. And it's the only thing that made me...
This is an outrage, right?
It's like, imagine being stabbed multiple times and then saying...
Dude, when he says that, I'm like, I feel you. I would also be like, I can't believe it. Like, literally 30 seconds ago, I'm walking down the road with my family, having a nice time.
You know, they came running at him and they stopped. They gave him a chance. He didn't explain himself. Yeah. Like you said, he could have really... It could have taken a few words. All he had to say was he's the new school teacher. So basically, after they murder Lady Snowblood's father, they take her mother, Sayo, hostage.
Mm-hmm.
And there they do some heinous acts to her.
Yes. A bit.
And eventually, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, she tells the story as she's giving birth. So we go back to the beginning where she's giving birth to Yuki.
I can't stress enough how all over the place this sequence is, but I love how all over the place it is. It even has like drawings. It has like still images. It has still photos. I was expecting to hear a knock at my door and have someone deliver a sculpture. That's how mixed media this was.
But as you get each piece, it's so rewarding. I watched this movie twice, and the second time I watched it, knowing everything, I was so much more into it. So I definitely recommend the second viewing.
Me too. Yeah. That's the stuff with the mother is so great too. Like at first, even though it's annoying with like the crying baby, her story ends up being so cool. And the fact that like all the women are kind of against her at first and then she wins them over.
Right. Well, you're talking about in prison, right?
Yeah.
But we find out they all disliked her at first because she slacked off on her chores. But it was there was a reason why.
She was obsessively sleeping with every man she could because she was trying to have a baby that she could turn into this Asura demon to get her revenge. Because she actually, I should say that she ends up killing the first of these 4 people herself, the mother.
Yeah.
And then when she's arrested, she knows she's going to die in prison before she gets a chance to kill the rest of them. So she starts having sex with every guard that she can. And that's another amazing looking sequence when she's describing that to the other women.
Yeah.
Because we're like outside of the cell and like the sex positions are like appearing like in the shadows of that same shot. It's pretty, it's not like incredible special effects, but it's pretty cool. It's hard to explain. After that, then we start getting that Lady Snowblood is born, and one of the mother's friends from the prison brings her to this priest who becomes like her training guy, very similar to the guy from Kill Bill, and
the Dokai
puts her through a pretty satisfying training montage that if I saw this as a kid, I really would be like, oh yeah, I should get inside a barrel and get pushed down a hill. That'll be how I'll learn like martial arts.
I actually have that written down because remember watching Karate Kid for the first time and like you would do the same stuff he was doing and think you were training as a martial artist.
Every time that was on TV, me and my brother would call like all the karate schools after and be like, we want to join. And it was always like on a weekend and we'd like leave a answering machine message. And then when they'd call back, we'd just be like, don't tell them we're here.
That guy kind of looked like a Japanese Christopher Lee.
He looked so much like David Carradine.
Really? David Carradine?
Yeah.
I want to know what part of his training consisted of naked sword fighting, though.
That is the only kind of uncomfortable part of the film.
Yeah.
At one point, he is fighting Lady Snowblood as like a 11-year-old or 12-year-old, and he cuts off all of her clothes, and then she's naked. But I do think actually the point of that was then he cuts her, and she like sucks the blood, and then she immediately kind of becomes like, I don't know. That's kind of like the key moment in the montage where she becomes tough, basically, even while naked.
With the barrel rolling, though, I've seen people roll down hills in a barrel and they never fell out. So are they on their path to becoming a Asura?
I don't know why you're watching people roll down hills in barrels.
It comes up on my YouTube.
And then when she rolls down the barrel next time and he slices it with a sword, but she flips out of it before he can do that, you're like, all right, well, it looks like Lady Snowblood is ready to hit the town.
Just put her in that white kimono and she's ready.
Yeah, she always looks good. Not to jump ahead, but when she's sitting at the masquerade ball at the end of the film, and she's sitting there kind of awkwardly and her mask is kind of on crooked, I'm like, Lady Snowblood, like, why do you feel awkward at this party? You're like the best dressed person at this party.
Yeah. I love that party scene, but jumping way ahead. All right, so where are we at now? Chapter 2, Bamboo Wives and the Tears of Wrath.
This is pretty much my favorite part of the movie, I think. This chapter where she kills the next guy on her list,
Bonzo.
Bonzo, he's become a gambler and a drunk, but he's got a daughter who loves him. And it's kind of like a quick little story with some moral, interesting moral questions and whatnot.
Bamboo Wives. I want to ask you, have you ever heard of that term?
I was going to Google it and I didn't, and I have no idea what those were.
I pieced it together as fish traps that she was making.
Oh, wait. But they show her throwing them away.
Right.
And she's throwing them off a cliff into the water. Isn't that confusing to get rid of fish traps by throwing them in the water?
Well, they're going to get washed out to sea.
Well, you're so completely wrong.
Did you look it up?
In the summer, no, I didn't look it up. But in the summer heat, the open bamboo structure is cooler to the touch than fabric or pillows. So the bamboo wife is embraced by the user as one would a sleeping companion. And it exposes maximum amount of the body to cooling breezes.
What?
So it's like a pillow.
It's like a fan?
It's like a pillow. Like a body pillow.
Oh, wow. I'm looking at a traditional one that are still made. I might buy one of these now.
I'm currently dating one of them.
That's your waifu pillow.
So the daughter has been making these bamboo wives. We see her in the room making them. And then she goes to the cliff and she's throwing them off into the water. And it's a very satisfying moment because Lady Snowblood walks up and she's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "That was also my same question."
Did she actually explain why she was doing it?
Yeah, because no one buys them, but
Oh, okay.
she throws them away, and then she does like sex work in the city to get money for her father. But the Bamboo Wives is the cover story that she's doing.
Yeah. Well, at that moment too, while she's throwing him into the ocean, two guys from, I guess, the underground casino come and pay Bonzo a visit and explain to him what his daughter's really doing.
This sequence also has. You said there's one part in the movie where you laughed, Rusty, earlier.
Yeah.
And this sequence has the one place where every time I watch this movie, I laugh so hard. So Lady Snowblood has met the daughter of the gambler who she's going to kill, and she's become kind of not friends, but friendly with her. And they're like hanging out, and Lady Snowblood says to the daughter, she's like, "Hey, if anything bad ever happens, here's an address in Tokyo. You should come stay there." And then the girl goes, "Oh, I could never leave my..." She's like, "Oh, that sounds great, but I could never leave my dad." And Lady Snowblood just makes a face that looks like awkward. And then she just leaves the scene without saying anything. And so then the gambling scene, I love the gambling. I mean, I just love the whole idea of this sequence, which is like the guy is a cheater at gambling.
Yeah, Bonzo.
And we have this really cool looking gambling scene, but so it's such a cool twist though, because we see that he's cheating at gambling, and Lady Snowblood, who has taken over as the dealer in the game, kind of like ignores it.
Yeah.
But then the guy who is sort of, I guess, the pit boss notices it, and then they're going to kill him. It cuts to like a scene where they're throwing knives that like land like on either side of his head and then like right by his dick.
Yeah.
And they're like, "All right, let's kill him." And Lady Snowblood comes in and is like, "Please spare this man's life." And I just love that idea because it's like has to be the one to kill him.
Bonzo is free.
Bonzo is free, but it's going to be a bit of a bittersweet experience for him.
Yeah.
Because Lady Snowblood takes him to a beach. And but it's so cool when like he starts like begging for his life. He's like, "What's going to happen to my daughter?" And Lady Snowblood, she's as cold as ice, which I love.
Well, yeah.
And but when she slashes him and the camera is like zoomed in on them, but then it pulls out and it's like you realize like they're shooting from like up on a cliff or something.
Yeah.
That's a really cool shot. And then the guy is like, we see him like floating in the water and like the waves hitting him. And there's just so much blood coming from him. I have no idea how they got so much blood.
It's like that Jaws scene. I feel bad for the actor in that. He has to play dead with those waves crashing on him and the salt water going in his mouth and eyes without
and
blinking.
There's rocks all around him. Like that's a amazing, some of the best dead acting I've seen.
Yeah.
That could be a good award show.
But the funniest thing was when she takes his body and brings him up a cliff.
Yeah, this is the funniest thing.
And then gets rid of the body by throwing it off into the water.
Here's the thing. He was already in the water. So she took him out of the water, took him up to the cliff, and then threw him back in the water. That seemed like something you would do when you're bored in Red Dead Redemption.
I was defending myself.
So now, are you ready for the next chapter of the movie? Because this is kind of where the movie takes a bit of a turn, which I like. But
Chapter 3
becomes a little different now. She goes to the grave of the guy who is believed to be dead, and she like chops the flowers that have been left at this grave. And then Ryu arrives and sees that she is like desecrated this grave. And he is a reporter. He is a novelist for fun, as he says. And he's intrigued. So he becomes the author of the Lady Snowblood story.
Right. Now,
and starts kind of a relationship, not a relationship, but like he starts publicizing her basically.
Right. Now, when she's we get a little further, when she sees that tombstone though, do you think she shows any emotion?
Oh yeah.
She's not supposed to though.
She's
pissed.
She's so pissed. The look on her face when that scene starts, like it looks like, I can't even describe it, but
when you open your fridge, and nothing's there.
It so captures someone who like desperately needs to achieve a goal, but there's no way the goal is going to be able to be achieved. Like she looks almost like a child, like the way that she's like crying, like almost crying.
I feel like it's a face I make playing video games. But she kind of befriends Ryu in a
Yeah.
bizarre way because she up until now she didn't really care about people.
Yeah.
So does she care about him? I don't think she really does.
I think she does a little, but not a ton. But things are a little tangled here just because the way that Ryu has decided to, like, the way that he has heard about her is that he knows the priest who trained her.
Yeah. And he's
And the priest,
giving.
yeah, he's gonna, like, it's part of his plan for them to draw the final person out of hiding by making her legend kind of popular via this guy. They even say at one point that the book needs to be a hit. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on a book. It's already hard enough to publish a book, write a book.
How long did
The thing is that he also is the son of the final guy who's actually not dead.
Oh, you're giving away so much now.
No, but it ties into this graveyard scene because is the reason he's curious about Lady Snowblood because he saw her desecrate his father's grave, or just because he was sent there by the priest? And there's also the implication that Ryu is writing this whole story and that he's the narrator of this. Hard to see how he survives the end of the film, but maybe he does.
Wait, does he survive? He doesn't survive, does he?
I think, isn't he the narrator though? Like, isn't this whole, because he's writing something called Lady Snowblood, and it kind of seems like it's matching up with what we're watching.
It does.
Well, the story does get out there and get popular. It's hard to know exactly like how much time is passing in this sequence, and what is Lady Snowblood doing during this? It's kind of like, like when you see a movie that's like about like a haunted house or something. It's like, what are the ghosts doing when they're not haunting?
Well, I think she's just waiting because she thinks the one guy is dead, and she's just waiting for this other person to come out of hiding because they looked all over for her and they couldn't find her. Before we get to that sequence, though, I just want to say that the daughter of Bonzo reads the piece, and that's where she puts it together that Lady Snowblood killed her father. But at that point, Ryu actually thinks his dad is dead at that time, right? He doesn't realize it until a little later. So the police come and take Ryu away, but we find that the police are actually like Okono's secret police, or hired goons.
They're her henchmen.
Are you a henchman?
That fight where she fights the goons in the courtyard, which begins with her like throwing her umbrella, which comes down like in a really weird way. And then she fights all the guys like in the courtyard, and there's just like a bunch of great blood sprays, including one that hits Mako Kaji in the face, and I think she was not expecting it or something. Is the trivia on that moment, because she totally reacts like and
I was thinking
great
that
moment, great battle.
I was thinking that because they're saying how she doesn't show emotion. I was just like, oh, that was weird that she reacted the whole other time. You know what was weird though that they did with the camera work did when the henchmen are beating up Ryu, it does like it like pauses and like zooms into a face like beneath them.
Yeah, that is weird.
You can't tell whose face that it was supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be Okono, right? That she's there watching.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure.
I have no idea. No, I don't. But I'm thinking but then we see her a second later, so like we didn't really need that.
There's also, this is like completely worthless to say, but there's one weird edit in her fight in the courtyard that if you watch this movie, right before she kills the last henchman, it's kind of like a jump cut. It does like it cuts to a shot that's just too similar. It's like the only kind of flaw in the movie where I'm like,
I didn't even see that.
Why'd they have that? Yeah, it's a weird jump kind of. That's why I only gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. A really cool moment where she goes into the building to then try to kill Okono, and she's shooting at her with a gun. She manages to like get past that part. Then her and Ryu go inside, and the woman has hung herself.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like lit up like in a green way, and it looks like she's looking at them. And there's a very understated like magic quality that this woman's kind of like a witch or something, but they don't really go into it. But it's kind of cool because it's like it's kind of just implied. Like you see her doing sort of a spell in front of the mirror, but you never know why.
Yeah.
But then when she's hung herself, she's kind of like looking at them, and they're just like looking at her. And Lady Snowblood's clearly disappointed that she didn't get a chance to kill her. And then she cuts her and just cuts off her whole bottom half.
Yeah.
And just a ton of blood comes and hits the floor. And then Lady Snowblood looks up and is like, okay, well, that counts.
Yeah, I did like that moment.
And then one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is a curtain comes down. It almost looks like Wes Anderson or like Rushmore. Like after she slices the body in half, like the curtain comes down, and then we go into the next chapter.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I didn't pick up on the first time watching it, but I did the second time, was that Rio's father was the one that actually hanged her.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah, he says it in like a throwaway line, but
What?
he says like that's how he realized his dad was still alive, which is like, how did he realize that his dad would come out and hang her?
Yeah, how did he? I thought she just killed herself because she knew she was going to get killed.
No, I think she was in the act of
Wow.
fleeing and she ran into him.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy that that's how Rio put it together, and that's how he knew that his dad was still alive and that he was in disguise.
I have to say, if I come across another dead body and they're hanging, my first thought is not going to be, my dad must be back to life.
Were you freaked out at all, by the way? Backtrack into that story.
A tiny bit, but not really. It was weird because it was something primal about it. Like every time I would like look away and I would think that can't be a dead body. And then I would look back and then just be like, that is a dead body. But it was like a primal part of myself knew that it was a dead person. It was hard to describe, but just the way you see when someone's eyes are open and they're dead. But it kind of freaked me out just in that I was like, is this normal now? Will I be seeing dead bodies all the time? Is this, has civilization collapsed?
Now you're very jaded, so you're just going to look for it as like a thrill.
Yeah, exactly. I'm already Lady Snowblood.
What would it take for you to touch that dead body?
Uh,
How many pastries?
It would take. I would have done it. I mean,
What
it was
about
almost like so normal. I was like, I would let that body hang out with me for like a couple hours.
So you're thinking Weekend at Bernie's scenario?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I could talk to it, and like I'll play games that just like, I talk to myself a lot. I could talk to a dead body for sure.
See, the bodies get bad when they rot for a little while, like after a couple of days.
Yeah.
And the skin starts to melt. That's when you're like, I'm out. I'm
that's
tapping
why
out.
it's like I only want that around for like 3 hours max. That's why you gotta have like a rotating system. That's why I'm coming out with it's like Uber, but for corpses to hang out with.
What would you do? What kind of activities would you do? Would you get a tandem bicycle?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's certain like bad reality shows that I like watching, but I can never watch them alone because it just feels so tedious, and it just feels like, I don't know. It feels so much trashier if I'm alone. But if I have someone else to watch it with and I could comment to them, they don't even need to be alive. So that's what I'll do. I'll bring a dead body over here and I'm going to watch MTV Road Rules Real World Challenge.
What's the craziest thing you think you ever said while you were by yourself?
There's no way I'm saying that on this podcast.
What does that mean?
You remember the character Renfield from Dracula? That's who I always imagine myself as. The last time I went to the doctor, he was marveling. I don't know if I told you this, but he was marveling over the fact that my right arm is so much more ripped than my left arm. And he's like, oh, usually he's like, he kept going through activities. He's like, oh, do you play a lot of tennis? He's like, do you do a lot of, he's like, you never see like this much of a difference between arms. And the whole time I was like, is he just trolling me because he knows I'm like thinking that like, I'm like, okay, it's jerking off. But yeah, and ever since then I've been completely paranoid because my left arm is much smaller than my right arm.
Wait, it is visibly noticed. It is visibly noticeable.
Dude, I look in the mirror and my right arm looks like Cable's right arm, and my left arm looks like Deadpool's left arm.
Did you ever see that guy that does professional arm wrestling, and he's got that disease that his like one arm is like gigantic?
Yeah, I saw him in the mirror.
Is that you? That's what you look like now?
So the final sequence, Ryu's father, who is the other culprit, who Lady Snowblood thought was dead,
the last one,
he is revealed to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
And
we all saw that coming. We knew the story wasn't ending without this guy.
I can't remember the exact sequence of events. What happens again?
He visits Rio in his shop or whatever he works out of, and he says the story ends like, you're not writing the story anymore, and he like smears it.
And then when he's leaving, oh yeah, great moment, because then when he's leaving, they pass Lady Snowblood.
What are you doing? What are you doing over there? It sounds like you're.
I started having some, I don't know, intestinal problems.
Okay.
So then, but it's a great scene though. So then he's leaving, and Lady Snowblood is walking past like his caravan or whatever you would call it, and it's a kind of like a tense moment, and her like hand goes to her sword, and you're like, oh, does she know who that is? And then she goes into Ryu's house, and Ryu explains like, he's alive, he's my father, and she's like, oh shit, it was that guy.
Yeah.
And she goes to catch him.
He stops her though, and the thing is, I thought she might have beaten up Ryu a little bit for that one, not being completely honest, but he had good reason. He didn't know. The final showdown.
Yes, the final showdown.
And the film,
this big costume ball.
And the film takes on a different look. And this is where we're getting to see a more westernized Japan. We're getting to see different clothing. We're getting to see different weaponry, breaking away from that tradition, that traditional Japan. We're in the new regime now.
Yes.
And the guy, and Ryu's father is completely immersed in it. He is selling arms to the government.
I need a left arm.
Wait, do you want to talk about the ball at all? Did he have anything to say about that? Or
well, so she goes into this banquet, and it's like a more modern kind of costume ball with like foreigners and people in costumes and suits.
It's very European looking.
Yeah, it's very European, and I wonder if that's part of the reason why she looks awkward. She like sits down and is like looking awkward.
Oh, it's got to be a complete shock to her.
Yeah, and then she sees the guy, and he disappears down a secret passage. She has a brief fight with him, kills him. Then she's going for the overkill. She's already killed him, but she's like going to keep stabbing. And Ryu runs up and stops her. And for a second, you think she's going to kill him because she's like, why are you stopping me? And he points out to her that it's a disguise this person is in. It's not actually his dad.
I really like that though. I like that little twist.
Me too. And it's another a cool moment happens here where after that, like they hear a sound and Lady Snowblood tells Ryu to like stay still, and like then like they look at this mirror and they break the mirror, and there's like a tunnel behind them, and the tunnels felt pretty modern, so it was a real like another kind of culture collision.
You know what's funny? What kind of sick fuck is Ryu's father that he's watching this whole thing, watching his imposter get killed?
Yeah, I don't know.
Behind that two-way mirror. But so they chase after him, and there's separate pathways, like separate stairwells. So they each take one.
Really felt like a video game. It's like it's crazy. Video games didn't even exist then, but that moment feels like such a video game.
Yeah.
The tunnels even reminded me of Golgo 13, which the author worked on.
And Ryu chooses the correct path, and he's face to face with his father now.
Yes.
Ryu is on the other side, and she's not sure what to do.
Her hesitation here is a little out of character, I feel.
Yeah, you think she would have done one of those jumps to the other.
Yeah.
But basically
she waits for Ryu to get like shot in the balls 5 times and like stabbed before she really makes her move.
Yeah, how many times did he get shot? 4? Close range too.
Yeah, Ryu took a lot of damage. Both him and Lady Snowblood take a lot of damage in this final bit.
Yeah. But basically, he's got to be bleeding out. I don't know how he could possibly survive, but who knows? Lady Snowblood makes her way over there, and she's, like you said, she's hesitating. And Ryu finally says, what does he say? Like, you have to stab him or something?
He basically says, like, do it, meaning stab through him and stab me. Although, not to quibble, because it's a cool movie moment, but I feel like she could have stabbed around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of a bit reminiscent of John Borman's Excalibur, if you remember the end of that movie. But yeah, she stabs through him to kill the bad guy. So
basically, Ryu's just dead on the floor, but there's still some fight left in this guy. And he winds up shooting Lady Snowblood 1 or 2 times?
Once.
But she delivers her death blow.
Yes. And then it's kind of a, like, I don't know if he's in slow-mo or what, but he's like about to go over the balcony and he's like kind of like holding on to like the Japanese flag and the American flag.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a tense moment. You're like, oh man, is he going to go over with both those flags? And then he goes over with just the Japanese flag. And you're like, okay, America was involved on some level, but it's mostly about Japan. Whatever they're saying is mostly about Japan.
I can't believe that guy took that fall though.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's such a cool angle for that to happen.
Yeah.
And you can see the guy lands on what looks like a floor. It's definitely not like a pad or anything.
Yeah, I rewound that to see if there was any like spring in that fall, but he just hit and hit the floor directly. It's a direct splat. You know, one thing, I don't know if this is an error or not, but the American flag seems to not be correct to the period.
Well, that is true because there's also a Pakistani flag.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that it predates the creation of Pakistan.
I didn't even. Did you notice that? Or, yeah, I'm sure you read that on trivia, right?
No, I noticed that. I'm always looking for flags that are period inappropriate. Bit of a fetish of mine. No, I read that.
So let's just wrap this bad boy up. Lady Snowblood. She makes her way outside. She's finished her business.
She's finished her business. She's been all fucked up. And she's comically fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then
she's hobbling along.
Banzo's daughter comes running out and stabs her.
And just runs from off screen and
runs from off screen, stabs her, and then runs off.
Yeah. And she collapses.
And we're like, is this the end of Lady Snowblood? I was actually watching this with a friend of mine, and I don't want to say who he was because he's kind of a famous person. But when this scene happened, he said, "Lady Snowblood, more like Lady No-Blood."
Wait, is that are you giving away the person you were watching with?
I can't say any more.
Okay. But the day breaks and she's sitting up.
I love it. It's like it looks like she's died, and then it's all like very much on a set, and then like the light becomes like the light of morning, and she like rises up.
She's like a phoenix.
Very inspiring moment. You know, you could like if the end song was Eminem's "Lose Yourself," totally would have been appropriate.
Was she reborn as a human now since her task was done?
She's just going to keep kicking ass.
But who does she have left?
Well, I mean, in the sequel, I can't remember the sequel exactly, but I mean, you know, she just becomes like a character who has adventures.
I did really like, though, that when she's stabbed by Bonzo's daughter, it's the first time she really shows emotion. And it kind of shows that her journey has consequences to it.
Yeah, it's true.
Because now she completed her task, but she's now suffering. And that scene reveals that, which is very cool. So I guess that's what that final scream does. I was surprised. I thought you were going to let me down with this pick.
But I thought you were going to hate it. I can't believe it.
I'll be honest. My first viewing, I fell asleep for about 20 minutes in the middle. And up until that point where I fell asleep, I wasn't that into it. But then when I woke up in the last half hour or so, I was just like, wait, this is really cool. So when I rewatched it, I was very, very into it.
And you know, it wouldn't work without the great central performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine this film with everything else as it is, but the central role is Pauly Shore. That's a whole different film.
Yeah. You know what I like though? It's such a strong female lead too. And even say like when Sayo is giving birth and she was looking to have a boy and she thought she was going to have a strong boy to avenge her, and she ends up having a little girl. It's just like, oh, look at that. Like, it's really cool. That's what they did.
Did you not hear that I said Pauly Shore?
No, what did you say about Pauly Shore?
Imagine this. I mean, her role, she's so good. Imagine this movie, all the same details, except the lead is Angus Scrim.
with that. Here, I have a question. I have a good question for you. If they were to remake this, an American remake, who would you cast as Lady Snowblood?
Louise Lasser.
I would pay to see that.